Hi, guys. So, here is my personal literacy journey. When I start to think about my start of reading and writing and listening and speaking, I obviously think about my family. So, I made a little linguistic family tree, and I'll start with my paternal grandparents. I call them Ba and Dada. Um, and as you can see, they speak a lot of different languages. My grandmother, Ba, I actually found out when interviewing her for a different project earlier in this master's that she speaks five different languages: Bengali, Hindi, Gujarati, French, and English. But would consider herself technically illiterate, meaning that she doesn't read or write in any of those languages. My grandfather, Dada, speaks, reads, and writes in all five of those languages, as well as another dialect of Hindi called Punjabi. Um, then moving down, you can see that my dad loses a couple of those, but is fluent in four languages: speaking, listening, reading, and writing, in English, French, as well as Gujarati and Hindi. He was born in India, and so his first language is Gujarati, which is a dialect of Hindi, and so he also speaks Hindi. And then immigrated to Montreal, Canada, where he went to school in a bilingual program that was French and English. On the other hand, my grandmother spoke English only, as well as my mom speaks English only, which leads to me and my two other sisters, Caroline and Sarah, which I labeled us as one to three ish languages. Um, if we had to get super technical about it, I suppose we only speak English, but we do speak bits and pieces of Gujarati. Um, and I've had really interesting, in depth conversations with my mother, who is my primary giver of literacy, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I don't think it really has a lot to do with my dad's wanting us to assimilate faster or anything. In my mom's opinion, it just had a lot to do with he was working, and in Indian culture, I think the women are expected to teach the kids, but in our case, my mom was white and doesn't speak anything but English, and so we really only got English, even though we were around all of these different languages growing up. And so, for that reason, we have bits and pieces. And so, I'll say one to three ish because I know bits and pieces of Gujarati, as well as I speak a little bit of Spanish. So does my sister Caroline, and my sister Sarah speaks a little bit of Italian. So, like I mentioned, my earliest memories of reading come from my mom reading from to me when I was a kid. These are all books that I have really early memories of us reading before bed. She always read to me before bed, as well as specifically Is Your Mama a Llama? I remember always sitting in the corner and, like, even before I knew how to read, pretending to read it because I had the pages memorized and I would just flip through it. Um, Early in life, I also really loved to write. This is a really fun book that my aunt had given me when I was about 4 years old, according to the date in the back, with a lot of different fill in the blanks. But one of these things was writing stories. And so this is a sample of about 4 to 5 years old of my writing, talking about on summer vacation, I went to Las Vegas and saw white tigers. It was fun. Also, I went to lots of hotels. So I that was really fun to find, and I think speaks a lot to my growing love for writing that comes. Um, which brings me to elementary school. Like, my love for creating creative writing really starts to take off. I remember I always loved writing time. I loved to write stories. I loved the illustrations. And I also really loved, I remember in second grade, my teacher would do author's chairs. And when we would finish a story and it was all published, we would get to read it in her special chair. And I remember having a lot of pride around, creating a final project. Also in second grade, though, I started to fall behind in reading. And so I received pull-out services for reading intervention. Um, and I remember the positives of that being I really liked the crafts and related activities we did to the readings. I remember we read the Lorax and did like this little make your own truffula trees craft, which just like it really sparked a joy and like for reading in a time where reading was really stressful for me and for a lot of kids in my situation. Another positive was I was exited after that year in second grade, so I assume it worked. Negatives of that were, though, it made me really self conscious even at that age. I knew that I was being pulled out because I was low, and the kids knew that. I think my peers knew that too, or at least I perceived it that way. Um, and then I also missed writing when I would get pulled out for that twice a week. And so I was always just really upset by that and frustrated. I was always behind on the writing process and just like upset because, like I said, I really loved writing. So that was a big negative for that program. Moving into my adolescence, I don't remember too much about writing. I think writing falls off a little more. I did like to journal here and there, but I remember falling in love with reading in a new way, in a way of it being a way to take risks and explore new worlds. And I think like a lot of people my age really fell in love with these book series that just let you escape reality. Um, and then when I stopped to ask myself, who are the people beyond my family that really impacted my literacy journey, I think a lot about high school and really two specific teachers, a junior high school honors English teacher, and then a high school AP literature teacher who was also one of my Spanish teachers, strangely. Uh, they made big impacts on me um, just uh, by, I guess, their units or their choice of literature. But I remember these three books specifically impacted not only me as a student, but me as a person. And to this day, I still relate things back to As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. I'm like, oh, that's a trope that was in this book. And Slaughterhouse Five was the beginning of a love I have for Kurt Vonnegut. Um, and so that's really what I think of. Another thing I think of when I think about writing is my AP literature teacher, who was also a Spanish teacher for me. But she taught me almost everything I know about academic writing. And to this day, I think about her all the time because she just like helped me so much to like craft a really rocking thesis statement. And she like gave us so much opportunity to practice and practice and practice it. And the reality was, or like the result of that was, is that people did really well, like on the AP exam. And I would say like later in life, like I credit all of my good scores on papers throughout college and even graduate school to this teacher. Um, and so that brings me to my impacts, how it impacts my teaching today. Um, first and foremost, going backwards, I guess, is that teacher and that experience in high school makes me want to aspire to be a strong writing teacher that gives like good, direct, differentiated instruction so that my students are successful like for years to come. Um, from my adolescence, I really learned that students need to read any genre that sparks their passion for reading, and helps them just to like explore their own understandings of their, I don't know, just like for them to explore their own, I guess, themes that they come across and what their interests are and figure out the genres that they're into. I think it's so important. And then from my elementary experience, I really took away from it. And I think about this consciously all the time to make sure that students are excited about their learning and make sure that I am helping them to not miss what they don't want to miss, as well as incorporate art and other domains into my reading to make it more exciting for kids, to bring that passion in, because that's what really helped me when I was in second grade. Thank you so much for listening, and I really look forward to hearing all of yours.